We know that the historical Jesus never met Donald Trump because Donald Trump wasn't even born when Jesus walked the earth. And of course, we doubt that Donald Trump has ever met Jesus because based on how he acts, we don't believe he's ever been born again. But even though the two have never met, we can make some guesses on how Jesus might handle Donald Trump. Of course, that's presumptuous. And the first option might be Jesus would just plain rebuke him. But in Luke chapter 18, verses 1 through 8, gives us a clue on how Jesus might recommend we handle Donald Trump and people like him. This is Dr. C. Dexter Wise III, and welcome to another edition of Wow, a word from the wise on Wednesday. To make the point that the people of God should always pray and not lose heart or quit, Jesus tells the story of a corrupt judge and a widow. Apparently, in a certain city, there lived a widow who had been wronged by someone, and she could not find any justice or restitution for that offense. Her only recourse was to go to the judge to get some relief, but according to the text, this judge was corrupt. He did not fear God and had no regard for men. This is a rough guy. He don't fear God and ain't scared of people. But she went to him anyway. She knew his character. She knew his reputation. She knew his track record. She knew that she had no attorney. She had no money to pay if a bribe had been required. She had no real standing as a widow. She had no covering from her husband, and she had little to no chance to prevail. Nevertheless, all she had was a voice and the courage to appeal to the judge. To her surprise, and the surprise of everyone else, the judge heard her case and granted her request. Why did this happen? He was the justice of the peace, but she peacefully disturbed his peace. That's why it happened. Although he was the justice of the peace, she figured out how to peacefully disturb his peace. Secondly, it happened because he ruled without compassion, but she lived with passion. She had more of a passion to get her justice than he had compassion not to give it to her. Something called passion makes a difference. And then he had power, but she had the power of persistence. That's what I want you to see and hear today. He had the power, but she had the power of persistence. The scripture clearly gives the reason that he gave her what she requested. Verses 4 and 5 says, and he would not for a while. In other words, he was trying not to give it to her, but afterward he said within himself, though I fear not God, nor regard man, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. In other words, he didn't want to do it, but she kept on coming. She kept asking. She kept pleading until he couldn't take it anymore. The same tactic worked for Delilah with Samson. He swore that he would never tell anyone the secret of his strength. And every time Delilah asked him what it was, he told her a lie. But in Judges 16, 15, and 17, here's what it says. Then she said to him, how can you say I love you when you won't confide in me? This is the third time you have made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great success. Verse 16. With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was sick to death of it. So he told her everything. Did you hear that? She got on him day after day until he got sick of it to death, and then he told her everything. So here's the takeaway from the story. The person who wins in the end is not the one who begins with the most power. Do you hear what I'm saying? The person who wins in the end is not the one who begins with the most power. It is the one who has the power of persistence, the power of persistence. The way to beat Donald Trump and his crew is to just keep on coming. Even if it takes more than one generation and you have to pass the baton on to somebody coming behind you, just keep on coming. The strategy of Donald Trump is to throw so much stuff at us that we simply get tired and surrender. But we can't get tired. Because whoever gets tired first loses, and whoever just keeps on coming wins. Can I say that again? Whoever gets tired first loses, and whoever just keeps on coming wins. Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. This is Dr. C. Dexter Wise III. Feel free to follow me, leave a comment, and tell me what you think. Also, check out our church website at www.faithministries.church. And to learn more about my books, products, services, and other things at my Wise School of Ministry, go to www.wiseworksonline.net. See you next week.